Google Sheet with everyone in that same view only chat. So pay attention to that view only chat as we're discussing stuff. And with that, let's kick off some intros. I guess I'll start then. So yeah, I'm Zoser. A lot of you guys already know me. I'm the live operations lead at Sky Mavis. I've even met a lot of you at AxiCon, which is really cool. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm the one responsible for like the contests right now and other various features we're working on. And yeah, it's been a blast. And let's pass it off to you, Phil.
Cool. I'm Philip, head up games here at Sky Mavis. I think I've met a lot of you as well. I've talked to a lot of you, and yeah, excited to chat more about all the upcoming changes with Origins.
Nice.
Cool, and a pretty big intro here for Emmanuel.
Yeah.
This is your first time, right?
I believe so. So name's Cruz Emmanuel. A very uncreative game tag for myself. But yeah, new to the team, new kid in class. Been here since a little after season 1 started. So this is my first season launch. What I do is working kind of what Phil has been doing up till now, working on the core game, working with the developers, the designers, all the people involved in the studio and outside the studio to make sure that Origins makes the progress that we wanted to make. And so now I'm here to kind of usher in some changes for season 2 and beyond. So yeah, excited to be here. Been working in games for many years, working in Web3 for the last few, and excited to be here at the pinnacle of Web3 at Axie. So yeah, excited to chat.
Heck yeah. All right, so
Happy New Year's to the community. Just excited to kick off the new year with a lot of new stuff with everyone. So yeah, let's get this going.
Yeah, so I'm kind of going to help us host this as I've got the agenda up. But yeah, Phil, you're going to kick us off with the sort of the big, how long is season 2 and sort of what does the leaderboard look like? So let's go into that.
Yeah, so I think disclaimer before we start anything is, these are relatively getting there, but there still might be tweaks along the way. But we want to start sharing with everyone, and it should generally look in the directionally will be what it looks like now. So yeah, to start off, I am going to talk about the season itself. So a lot of people have talked about the long season during season 1, how things get stale and there's not as many changes. People solve for the meta and just go hard on whatever's the strongest. And so the season length, first of all, will be changing. Will be cut down to about 42 days. And this is in line with what we've been hearing a lot from the community, and should help make sure that it's the right length where people can spend time and play the game and learn about the different parts and try out the new metas and test out different teams, but also not too long where things get stale. So that's kind of the first big change to the seasons. Is it'll be shorter, about 42 days, not the full 2 months that we are used to. So that's the first one. The next one that I'll go over is the AXS reward systems. So we are making some pretty significant changes, also mostly based on feedback from you. We try very hard to listen and bubble up all the big items that the community talks about and think through it ourselves and how it aligns with the overall direction and fits in with future features, future plans. And so a couple of the major changes with the leaderboard is that number one, it's going to be broken down into more tiers. So a lot of credit goes to a lot of people suggested this, but Rohan, many of you will know him in the community. He created some pretty detailed thoughts on it, which was super helpful. I chatted with him as well as I was going through it. So shout out to Rohan. And we are adding these tiers to make it so that there's more motivation basically and more reason for people to keep pushing up in the leaderboard and not just sit in certain tiers. And so you'll see that instead of, I think, some of the larger, size tiers we had before, there's going to be shorter ones, especially closer to the top. And with this change, also the top leaderboard rewards will be lower, and it'll be distributed a bit more across the leaderboard, so that we can really benefit the entire player base and get everyone engaged and involved and feeling rewarded for the accomplishments and the wins. And then the second part, which is potentially an even larger change, is that we're actually splitting the leaderboard into multiple sections across a season, which we're calling eras. So there'll be 4 different eras, and Vince is going to go into more detail about them, but the general idea is that, as part of the feedback that, the meta and things get stale over time, there'll be different changes each era, and also there'll be rewards throughout. And so the leaderboard will be split into multiple sections, with each having AXS rewards. So day 0 to 7 will have 10% of the AXS rewards for the season. Day 7 to 21 will have 30%. Day 21 to 28 will have 15%, and day 28 to 42 will have 45%. So if you're just someone who wants to jump in at the end of the season, you're not gonna be able to participate in having a chance to win all of the potential rewards that will be spread out across the season. And so this will help give people rewards for playing throughout the season, basically, and not just at the very end, which is a lot of the feedback we got last season as well. Obviously, the ending one is still the most and still the largest payouts in terms of the AXS tokens, but there's a significant amount that's happening across the entire season. And I think that's all I had. So I'll pass it off to Vince to go in more detail about these different eras.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So I posted a huge chart you guys can look at for a long time. It basically just shows the exact breakdown. Again, everything's subject to change, but this is kind of where it's at right now. For, as you guys can see, like the AXS per player, when that era would pay out. So you see like the first 7 days, there's a certain amount of AXS, etc. So the general idea is, like Phil said, there's 4 eras. And so another thing, and this is a pretty big change, to kind of complement those eras, this is something we came up with and we're trying. We hope you guys like it. We hope it goes well. Is that each era, especially the first 3, they're going to be unique to the types of runes and charms that you can even get. So what that means is the first era, the first 7 days, you can only craft rare runes and rare charms, and the only things you'll be able to get from various sources will be as high as rare, so rare runes and charms. So that means for the first 7 days in that 10% era and that 10% leaderboard that pays out, it's basically going to be a leaderboard of who does the best using only rare runes and charms. And then on day 7, as we start to go into the new era, which is the day 7 to 21 era, which is 30% of the total AXS for the season, we're going to open Epic. And at that point, you can craft Epic, and you'll be able to also get, like different things like the Epic moonstones, or what's the word for moon dusts and stuff like that. So that next 14-day period will basically be a representation now of, okay, who does the best only using common, rare, and up to Epic now, runes and charms. And so then that we'll have a payout on day 21, the 30% of that AXS will pay out. And then we'll go to the final era, which is going to be 2 leaderboards, but now we have Mystics. So really, you'll only be using Mystics for half the season, which is the second half. And then it'll be, okay, there's 7 days where Mystics are open, and then there's a small payout of 15%, as you see. And then the final 14 days, which is the largest chunk of AXS, so 45%. And that's when we also did the avatars and the borders and stuff like that, which I'm about to post. You'll have access to Mystics. So there's basically a different sort of level. So in order to be essentially like the top player for an entire season, not only would you have to place very high in 4 leaderboards, so you'd have to play, consistently throughout the season, you'd also have to be the best, only having access to rare and then or so I should say common and rare every time I say this, up to rare, so common and rare, and then adding in epic, and then adding in mystic. So there's a lot of different metas to figure out. You can't just only be good at using mystic runes, for example. So let me kind of post this really quick while I have a sec so you guys can see how the other leaderboard rewards look. And this is going to also go into accessibility now. So Cruz will go more into this too and the reasoning. But we're definitely trying to increase accessibility of our game. And what we mean by that is not making it like so hard to get mystics and have it be that it's so overbearing that you have to have mystics to win. So this next thing I posted is the rewards for each of those eras as well. So the leaderboard rewards, as you can see, basically every single person is going to get an epic rune at the end of the 7 days. So then that means when we start the epic era, every person will at least have an epic rune to start them off. And then the same for the mystic era as well. So when we start the mystic era on day 21, every single person will have a mystic rune at their disposal of their choice. So you'll have something more to build off. It's not going to be totally up to RNG and crafting. So this should help close the gap a little bit. So obviously crafting is still important, and people are going to want 3 mystics and multiple mystics, etc. But we're at least giving people something to work with. So yeah, kind of taking in some of the chat now. So because this is a lot of big changes now. Let's see what else is next. Okay, so Emmanuel now can talk about, so with all these big changes, there's obviously certain things in the game we have to change, such as like, if we're going to have it be where you can only get rares for the first 7 days, we better be really careful that we don't accidentally give out epics or allow the crafting of epics to happen. So Emmanuel now is going to highlight kind of how that works as far as crafting goes and what changes are made to crafting to kind of help this work.
Yeah, and Vince really nailed it down. So for each era, those crafting recipes are going to be locked until that era exists. So in other words, there are the master crafts recipes, which are used to craft mystics. That won't be unlocked or available for users to use until day 21 when that era starts. That being said, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but you can continue increasing your crafting level. Crafting level will still be a requirement to unlock those recipes, but you'll be at crafting level, you'll be at the max crafting level before that day 21, but you still won't be able to craft those mystics. We've also made it that any items that change or give you the ability to get a % chance of crafting a rarity that shouldn't exist in that era, those items won't be distributed before those eras happen and before those runes and charms should exist. So we have a lot of constraints. I'm sure there are more constraints that we need to add on in the future, but to make sure that the rare era is truly the rare era, there's only common and rare common and rare runes and charms, and that format can exist unblemished by the other things. So yeah, there's going to be some new functionality, some new UI in the screen that should make it pretty clear that, hey, you've reached the level in which you could unlock those recipes, but you still have to wait until that era begins to claim them. There's also a question, I think someone was asking if moon shards reset between eras, and as of right now, they do not. So you have the same inventory of moon shards, and they will only reset at the end of season 2 off season, as it has been thus far. So hopefully, yeah, we just give pretty varied distinctions of the different types of playstyles in the game, and you can play it throughout the entire era without having people have mystics on day 1, and maybe now you're boxed out of having a lot of fun until you get there too. So yeah, that is kind of what we're doing. Again, all of these things have been really educated by the community from the feedback that we've gotten. But these are not things that we're committing to forever. We'll be, as always, open to feedback, open to learnings, open to the very smart people that give us really smart ideas. We'll adjust, we'll pivot, and we'll really fine tune what the seasonal experience should look like and what progression should look like each season. And yeah, hopefully this is one step in the right direction. So that's my little bit. Vince, I could pass it off to you to talk more about the other reward distribution stuff we're doing.
Yeah, there's actually even more to discuss on the crafting recipes. So just at the bottom. So Another thing about crafting, as you guys can see since I posted the image now, is that the crafting levels changed. So this is actually going to be much easier to unlock the recipes you need. So in season 1, for example, if you want to craft mystic runes, it literally just came down to like how many moon shards can you pile into the craft to get your crafting level high enough, and people were buying them to disenchant and just playing a ton to get the moon shards. It's not going to be as hard anymore. It's going to be, since the time gate is already in place, you're definitely going to have to craft and keep your level going. But by the time the time gate unlocks, most of you should be pretty close to having it organically unlocked if you're playing anyways. So at the bottom of the image, you see the moon shards required to reach the crafting level. So in season 1, if you had hit crafting level, let's just say like 5.5, for example, or level 6, that's the equivalent of level 15 this season. And if you had hit crafting level 8.5 in season 1, you'd be crafting level 30 in season 2. So you're going to be getting a lot more levels quicker. So you're going to be filling up that crafting level bar a lot quicker. And you'll see why that matters in a sec, because, oh no, you can see it on that chart. So we don't unlock, for example, intermediate unlocks at 15, master unlocks at 30. But don't be daunted by those numbers. They're not that scary because you'll be leveling a lot quicker. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, so now let's move to the rank up rewards. Yeah, not much has changed here, except that as a result of us having to be kind of careful about what we give out, because again, these eras, it's not like we're just like blocking you from using your stuff. Like it doesn't work that way. It's actually that you just won't have the stuff. So we have to be really careful. Like we can't accidentally give you like a mystic moon dust, because if we did, it would break the entire era thing, because someone might get really lucky and then put the mystic moon dust in and craft it. And so kind of what that means is, I'm posting it now. For the rank up rewards, it's going to be just a lot heavier on moon shards, for example. We're going to be giving out dusts in the crafting level up, you'll see. And then early on, you'll get a choice box just to kind of help you get started, especially at the beginning of the rare era, with a rare charm and a rare rune of your choice. So you can kind of build around what you want. And yeah, that's kind of the direction we're trying to go in the game, is, again, increased accessibility. Let's see what's next. The crafting level up rewards. Okay, yeah, this is going to be huge to share. I'll just show you guys the top half of it so you get the idea. And then it's just very much a pattern after that. So in the view only chat, I just posted it. This really clearly shows, and season 1's on the far right, the crafting level and what you earn, and then also how much experience it costs to get to it compared with season 1, just to reinforce. And we'll share this later so you guys can scroll all the way down. For example, like looking at kind of the bottom of this. I'll just open it so I see what you guys see. Crafting level 32, you're going to need 4,500 experience, which means you have to spend 45,000 moon shards on crafting. And if you had done that in season 1, you would have been, I think I put the crafting level wrong, but yeah, you would have had to need much more, like 542,000 moon shards. So yeah, I'll fix the crafting level because it looks different on there, but yeah. Hope you guys get the idea. The point is, it's much easier to level up. And then for the levels, it's just like sort of a rotating, you get an epic moon dust, 2 basic moon dusts, a moonstone, and then it just sort of repeats. It's sort of like a pattern. You'll notice there's no mystic moon dusts. So we can't give those out in these progression systems, again, because if we did, someone could use it before day 21 and then craft a mystic. And so how we're going to get around this is in our contests, you should be looking forward to seeing a lot of these, because it's one place we can wait. And then when we do run a contest that happens to be in the Mystic era, we can quite easily give out these Mystic Moon Dusts. So don't think that you're not going to have access to any. We just can't put them in the core progression systems because we don't know how fast someone can reach crafting level 100, for example. So even if we try to bury it down there, they could still get there and then just use it. So yeah, hope that makes sense. And then last but not least is, since every other game does this, and even though we don't have the technology we can kind of just do a small mailbox way of doing this. We're going to be doing a little daily login bonus at the start of the season. We're going to give that a try. So it's going to be very basic. It's just going to be you log in. You'll have something in your mailbox that expires at the start of the next day. So make sure to claim it, and then you claim it, and then the next day there'll be something new in your mailbox, and then it repeats. And we'll do that for 7 days, and we'll see how this goes. And if people like it, and we'll check the data and stuff. But yeah, I just posted it there. And actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to delete it for a sec just because I just want to show the contents of it and not necessarily the other stuff on it. So yeah, let's check that. So yeah, so those are the rewards. They're pretty basic. Again, they're all very era friendly. So it's just going to be, yeah, rare stuff, moon shards, stuff like that. So yeah, you should have something for free to claim like every other game does when you log in each day. So should be good. Let's see what is next. So that's it for the specifics. And again, we'll share this entire sheet with you guys, so you'll have access to all this. But yeah, I guess I think it's a good time for Emmanuel to talk a little bit about sort of what we're thinking in terms of balance and how that's going to look, and mid-season balance changes, and like what's kind of the status on that. That's been a hot topic.
Yeah, been a very polarizing topic. I'm sure everyone in chat has very strong opinions in both directions. There's been rumors and conversations, people clamoring for mid-season balance changes, especially with how season 1 ended up shaking out. Hopefully, from all the conversations that we've had thus far, we're implicitly changing and reducing the need for mid-season balance changes with the different eras, how the leaderboards are attuned, how the crafting happens, and by the shortness of the season, there should be a lot less concerns as far as single teams or archetypes taking over 6 weeks of your lives. We've also, as we mentioned, maybe not explicitly, but we've really invested more in our game design team. I think a lot of you were here for the town hall with Hale and Jats there, who've been very great analysts and super valuable assets to the team. And we've also had more additional staff added. So y'all are seeing the proof in the stage 2 patch, the season 1.5 runes and charms that are in the game right now. A lot of stuff has changed from season 1, and we're hoping that all of those things will make it that the season is balanced well and it is fun and interesting to continuously play every day and every week without things feeling monotonous and boring. That being said, we'll continue. Again, we haven't committed one way or the other whether we're doing mid-season balance changes. Even internally, there is a lot of conversations happening almost daily for what direction we should go on. But one angle that we've put together that might be more tenable for both sides, meaning somewhere in the middle, is, as you have all seen, there is now a Mystic era where from day 21 onwards, that'll be the only time Mystics runes and charms will be available. And really, our hunch is maybe that it would be the potential breaking point for when the game gets stale. We might potentially consider changing those runes and charms, just small number tuning balances before that era comes out. We have a lot of data coming in from all of you playing on the season 1.5 runes and charms configurations, and we have a lot more changes still in the pipe before the season 2 starts. But also, we might have, I'm not sure if we've announced it, an additional way to test Mystic runes and charms during the season 2 that'll help educate if we needed to do any additional balance before the Mystic era starts. Again, ideally, with all of the additional things that we're adding to the game, we don't need to do anything, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of fun playing a lot of Axie this season. But for those who are still having a little bit of a PTSD or maybe a little some concerns of how season 1 went, we are exploring, and we have a lot of options in the pipe that we will communicate well in advance before we do anything one way or the other, and we'll try to commit as far as possible for if we are going to do these balance patches or whether we're not doing these balance patches. Anyways, all of that to be said is we're thinking about it, we're thinking of you, keep being vocal, keep messaging us, but also just have fun with the season and hope it shakes out. One other thing that we wanted to bring up is I think we're seeing a lot of concerns last season with rune charm availability. As all of you have seen, we have a lot more ways to make things accessible. but we've also heard a lot of feedback for things such as like Mystic Pity timers, ways to make it less punishing for people who are spending lots and lots of moon shards and SLP to get these very exclusive items and just simply don't get lucky. So we have some ideas there that we're going to be talking about shortly. So stay tuned for that. And for minting, we said in chat, but you might have missed it if you're just hearing the audio. We are not changing the minting duration for runes and charms. So they'll be what they were before. We're monitoring data, obviously, with how arrows work. These are going to be aggressively changing metas, which means that we might need to consider what our minting strategy is. But as of right now, we're going to keep it as it is. We're monitoring, we're looking at feedback, and as people are talking about in chat, we always want to balance accessibility and the marketability. We want to make sure that all parties in our game are being heard, and all players, regardless of who they are, can have fun and play Origins in the way that they want to play Origins, or in the ways that we're allowing them to. So yeah, that is some of the stuff from my end as far as what we're thinking about for balance and for the rune accessibility. I think that's it from my end. Vince, was there anything else on your end?
No, the mint fee, even though we haven't changed it in a while, because we changed it like 7 weeks ago, I just don't think a lot of people have minted that since then. So I'm going to post a little reminder of where we're at for the mint fee for those that have forgotten, so we know for the season. Even though it's not new, this is actually already like this, but yeah, it's a reminder. No,
Yes.
I think you covered it, and I guarantee there's going to be a ton of questions. So now I think it's time to maybe open this thing up a bit and see if I can figure out how to get people on stage.
Yeah, and I think directionally you'll see we are slowly figuring out the right ways to make the game more accessible, as mentioned earlier. The end goal is for us to eventually optimize a lot of the onboarding and progression and all of those systems so that, it's not just people who have been in the game and in the ecosystem a long time that can get into it and to enjoy it, but, for you to tell a friend that has never heard about Web3 before, or for someone to just see an ad or discover it somewhere and be able to get into it and play for free and progress and onboard into blockchain at the right time that they're comfortable with. So that's the long-term goal, and that's what a lot of these changes and direction shift towards. So it's important to understand, some things in the short term might look like, okay, like we're giving up more things, but we have to make the game more free to play accessible if we ultimately want to grow, which will grow the entire pie significantly, because this is still literally a tiny number of people that we are looking at. The whole Web3 space is tiny compared to everyone that's out there, and that's ultimately who we want to become part of our community. So that's where you see a lot of these changes working towards.
Okey-dokey. All right, we've got one person who already has the questions. Two now. All right, we'll bring him up. ER4Z, you're coming up. At least I think you are. Oh, wait, I have to invite them to speak and then they have to accept? Oh, interesting. All right, well, Maddie, you're invited. All right, there we go. Maddie, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Okay. Am I good now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Well, first off, thank you for bringing me up. I had a pre-formed question that I had written out before this whole thing started. So some of the things that you guys discussed actually plays along the lines. But anyways, I have a short statement, and then to follow up with the question, I'm hoping that you guys can just kind of fill in where you feel you can fill in. So as a casual player during season 1, I was unable to reach crafting level 14. I have a normal 9-to-5 job, and I'm only able to invest around 1 to 2 hours of Axie play per day. I believe that the previous system created an advantage for those who have either lots of money or ample free time and moved away from a skill-based core game. Even 1437 said that runes and charms were critical to the functionality of your team composition. Currently, those who have more time and money are able to collect these runes and charms, and this is not based. I would also ask, when was the last time that you saw internet memes begging for more stamina? From looking at the doll model, we can see that if you can create excitement and FOMO when demand for shields was higher than the supply of shields. As of right now, the most common description I hear from players of Axie gameplay is currently a grind. Nowhere in the definition of grind is the word fun. The game should not be a grind, it should be fun. I believe a reduction in daily stamina would create more scarcity, which would lead to higher Axie values and SLP values, which would encourage investment in the community. This would also lead to higher daily player activity without disturbing the current balance. And the final point here is there seems to be an effort by Sky Mavis to shorten match times. However, we see with Doll that players spend between 10 to 30 minutes per game. So I believe that there's not a strong correlation between match times and player engagement. So my question to you guys would be, is how is the inner circle of developers discussing or thinking about the this aspect of the game? My original suggestion would have been to have 1 stamina per Axie with a daily max of 20, with 20 max stamina. I want to see what you guys' thoughts of this, and this really goes along the lines with the progression thing there. And my new concern from what I'm hearing from this discussion is that maybe we're going to make runes and charms too accessible. My primary question is what do you guys have in discussions as far as daily stamina?
Yeah, I could take this one. Nice to meet you, Maddie.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, stamina has been a pain point. We've heard it a lot for people who have a lot of Axies, who have to grind through many hours of play every single day. We have a lot of ideas that have been sourced from the community. We have a lot of ideas internally. We actually we're going to do something for season 2. We just ran out of time, so feel heard. There is something coming in the near to mid future to solve that problem. As far as the length of the actual round, yeah, I think there's no explicit desire for us to have the games be shorter for the sake of them being shorter. Ultimately, we're trying to optimize fun. We're trying to optimize exciting moments. We've added a lot of new features in season 2 that can kind of change how you play, adding different concepts of ramp, different build around cards, different like big win moments. So that's kind of the direction we're moving towards and optimizing for. Not specifically like it's not like, hey, we want every game to be 2 minutes just for the sake of there being 2-minute games. But yeah, so, and for the third point with runes and charms being too accessible, I think Phil mentioned in the chat and mentioned verbally, yeah, right now we've hit the Google Play Store. We're trying to expand to as many markets as possible. We're getting blessings from the app stores. And so it's going to be a lot of new users. There's going to be a lot more people playing Origins in the coming months than there have been in the last few months. And we want to make sure that, hey, we're not being too prohibitive. But agreed, like if everyone comes in on day 1 and gets every single mystic in the game, that obviously becomes a little too accessible for the sake of cannibalizing on fun. So yeah, definitely a lot of really good concerns that we're monitoring right now. And season 2, again, we're not committing to this being the forever future of what our seasons look like, but we're testing the waters, seeing what it's like. Definitely keep giving feedback, keep coming to the town halls, and we're all ears to keep stepping it up. Cool. Let me know if that answered anything. Vince, Phil,
yeah.
anything else?
No, are you good with that? You feel good, Maddie?
I mean, pretty good. I guess my primary now is what changed my whole equation here is I have to kind of see how it plays out in the accessibility of these things. My primary, really, the root of the question is accessibility for someone like myself. I do feel like we should have learned from Doll a little bit that like if the other way of doing accessibility, I guess, in my opinion, would have been to reduce stamina. That way, players who only have 1 to 2 hours a day could actually progress at the same level as everybody else. And I also believe that would potentially bring in more daily active users because now it just fully levels the playing field that way. But I feel like you guys have kind of gone this separate direction, which I'm not saying good or bad yet because I don't honestly know. You guys leveled the playing field by making things accessible. In general, when I see that things are too accessible, it kind of goes against the laws of scarcity, and that'll concern me a little bit, because if we just have an overflood of mystics, because we saw what happened when the overflood of epics hit the market, and they were down to less than the minting fee was, and so I do have concerns that the direction that we're taking here with this season will maybe lead to that, where we might even have mystic terms going for less than minting fees. I guess we'll have to see how it goes. My suggestion would have kind of been like a side suggestion to it. I kind of prefer my idea over this current system, but I'm not going to lock in and say. But yeah, it's a solid answer, and mostly just was trying to gather you guys' thoughts on, like, because you guys have the inner circle discussions. I don't know what's being said, so this was more of an informational gathering, and you guys have definitely shed light on what you guys are thinking. So I'll go with it. I'm happy, and yeah, I'll kind of submit my time here.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I mean, for us, it's a learning process too, right? Like, obviously, we'll have to see how everything plays out as well in the upcoming season, and adjust if necessary. But yeah, on the accessibility front, like, ultimately we are optimizing for a good play experience. That's the number one. And so that's, like, we have to look at it from the perspective of someone who is not necessarily on chain at all. And that's what we need to work towards, having the game accessible to, and obviously balancing that with the on-chain and unique components that are core to, a Web3 game, and having ownership of your assets too. So yeah, it's a balance. So totally hear the concern there, and yeah, we'll if we've swung too far on the balance, then we'd have to adjust a bit. But definitely right now it was far too much, in a way that if you're a new player that is not even on chain yet, there wasn't much of a chance. So helping with that. And then on stamina stuff, there is more discussion internally on how we want to change stamina in the future, and there has been talk around having ways where people could find ways to spend more stamina if they do certain things, or you can wager more stamina to earn more, but there might be some drawbacks. There's a lot of ways we can spin it, but yeah, we are having discussions about stamina as well.
Okay, right on, guys. Yeah, I'll let you guys definitely move on, bring anyone up, but I appreciate the talk on that.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the question. I tried to invite Excelsior up, but doesn't look like he's accepting. So we are going to spam, and oh no, he's up. But we know who's next. All right, Excelsior, if you're up.
I can't hear you.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So I didn't know if this was discussed. Like, in terms of the duration of the minting period, is it still going to be 7 days, considering that there's going to be a staggered, like, 4 eras, as you said a while ago? Like, if I want to sell, it's going to be a shorter period for that specific era. So will it still be 7 days, or will you decrease it? That's for my first question. Second is, for the esports server, is this it's still going to be all access, or will you be doing the same method, or will you be how do you say, limiting it according to era as well? So yeah, that's it. Those are my questions.
I think
I
Cruz
could
can
talk-
take both of those.
Maybe Phil could talk more about the minting length as far as the
Sorry
esports
to put you on
server
the spot.
stuff.
All right.
Yeah, no worries. So for the esports server, as the current plan is we'll keep it as it was for season 1, all access, and then we will allow, like they did in season 1, the TOs, the tournament organizers, can choose the formats and enforce it that way. That being said, if the tournament people and the people on the other side, the esports side, hear this announcement and they're like, hey, we don't want to do that, we want eras to now dictate what is available on the esports servers also, we are open to that idea as well. But as of right now, yeah, all access for all of that. And Phil, I don't know if you want to speak more about the minting length, because that is a larger topic.
We're still having discussions about that. It's a technical, more of a technical kind of problem and risk issue that we need to solve for. A lot of it is around anti-cheat and exploits, and being able to catch these things if there are issues. So yeah, we want to reduce it, I think, and we will. Like, I've been pushing for it personally, to get it down to as quickly as possible that you can mint. But yeah, I do need to work more with the engineers to figure out how we can do that in a way that we're protected, and so that people can trade their stuff right when they get them as soon as possible. So as of now, the minting time will stay the same until further notice.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
man. Okie dokie. Next up is the beloved Salmon Rice.
Hey, what's up? Testing.
Yo, man. Yeah, we
Yep.
hear you. How are you?
Second, I'm gonna. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
What's up? I just want to first say, like, I'm loving everything that was announced so far. Very, very excited to play season 2 and whatnot. And like, I jumped in the moment. Like, I was seeing on Twitter all these changes. So, like, kudos to you guys. Thank you for listening to us and everything like that. It's gonna be definitely gonna be a fun season. I have a few concerns though. So, like, we just revamped the whole game, and naturally, when you create like revamp a whole new game, it's going to be common to see bugs and things like that. The thing about bugs though is sometimes they take like 2 seasons to fix because they can get very complicated, and that's going to affect competitive gameplay and everything like that. So it's just a concern for me about like revamping the whole game, because I know oftentimes SM is going to listen to the community, and the community's been begging for like more V2 similarities. They want more like intricate gameplay. I mean, interactive gameplay with your opponent, and that's like perfectly fine. My biggest concern is like, what if this isn't like the patch that's gonna? Because ideally, we want this to be the patch, and then we want to make small changes going forward. I believe that's what Hale said. But like, are you guys giving in? Or are you guys listening to the noise about how people want the game to have more outplay potential and all that? Because my biggest concern is, are we gonna have like a brand new game every season, like next season, and whatnot? So like, it's just gonna be very, very tiresome for the staff or the players to constantly deal with all these new bugs that come with a brand new game each time you guys decide to revamp it.
Yeah, I could talk through this one, unless Phil, you want to jump in.
Oh no, go for it.
Yeah, so this is good. Great question. So as it stands, where we're at with season 2 should be, we've said the word foundation and we're going to use it again, but the foundation for the foreseeable future. There was a lot of things internally between Sky Mavis and the community that people obviously didn't like about a lot of the viable archetypes in season 1, and there were a lot of balance concerns just from the systemic design of how the classes were built that we feel like we've addressed 80 to 90% of in season 2. So in future patches, we shouldn't see complete reworks of so many cards every season. That we'll have these, we'll tune them, maybe we'll adjust some numbers, but the magnitude of change will be much less than the difference between season 1 and season 2. And then as far as the current conversation about Origins versus V2 and adding more interactivity, counterplay, outplay mechanics, we're listening. We're definitely doing a lot of brainstorming internally, as there's been a lot of conversation in the community. We're also talking a lot about it with our dev team, our engineers, and our game designers. So yeah, keep the ideas coming for how we can make the game fun, and what parts of Origins we really like and we want to enhance, and what parts of Classic that we really like that we would like to see potentially emulated in Origins. Obviously, we won't make Origins just like V2 because otherwise it would just be the same game. But yeah, so the long story short, season 3 should be a lot closer to season 2 than season 2 was to season 1. And hopefully that quells concerns for how drastic we're changing things.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, I feel like, I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like SM's just going to give in eventually, especially when like big voices like Elijah or something are posting a tweet. It's natural for you guys to weigh his opinion heavily. And I think it's like, a great opinion. I just don't want this to be like, if you guys want to add more changes to the core gameplay, I'd rather have it happen sooner than later. Because what if we just keep working on this game for the next few seasons, and then there's still not the results that we want in terms of player base or community happiness, and then you guys will just end up like changing core gameplay later. I just want to know like the discussions between that, what you guys are having.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
and that's very fair. Like I to harken back to what Phil was saying, is definitely we are optimizing for fun, accessibility for the millions of users that exist on the mobile gaming market that have never touched Axie before. They've never touched Classic, they've never touched Origins. So we're really looking hard at our game and being like, what is the game that Origins needs to be? That if a random, like whatever, Fortnite player, Hearthstone player comes and has never really heard about Axie, installs the game, what kind of gameplay will make them enjoy it, will have them stick, will have them be part of the Web3 community ultimately. And so yeah, that is kind of the path that we're going forward. Obviously, we're only looking at V2 because it's a game that also exists on the market that people have played a lot and have a lot of opinions on. And it would be, I think, there's things to learn from the game that exists that can help educate the path that Origins will be, whether it'll be more like it or less like it or whatever. Again, whatever that the new consumer that has never heard about Axie before finds fun, that is the path we're gonna go. Yeah, so
that's a great point. Yeah, that's my opinion on it too. I think we should appeal towards people that are brand new because everyone's always gonna have the nostalgic factor of like V2 and everything, but the thing is, the brand new players coming in, they don't know what V2 is, and as long as they have fun with the game, then that's great. I just didn't want you guys changing your minds like later on and adding like more V2 core gameplay because that's just gonna prolong more bugs and it's gonna be infinite cycle of changes. Like I want like it to be decisive and whatnot.
I also
for sure,
think,
yeah, go for it.
I also think another point to add on spam is that some of the complaints of like let's just make a general one, like someone says I'm bored, right? That's not entirely has to do with the in-game battle system, right? And that shouldn't all be on the in-game battle system, because if we step back, we realize that this game, especially right now, a lot of it's a deck building game, right? Let's just be fair to say that there's a good amount of deck building to this. Like you need to have access to certain Axies and you want to have runes and charms. So if you can't build the deck you want, that comes down to a lot of progression systems. And so that's obviously a lot of my focus right now is, and for this town hall is like, how do we clean up some of these progression systems so that people can at least build the decks they want? And then on top of that, other progression systems, just for example, and these are more like, let's say, kind of things that make the game addicting, which is kind of like the same as fun, really, if you think about it, especially looking at land and like their daily mission system. Like we don't have a daily mission system inside Origins yet, right? We don't have a battle pass inside Origins. Many other games on the market have these. And I would argue that this makes the game more fun, even if you don't touch what's happening in the battle more fun, if that kind of makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. All the changes outside of it are amazing. That are coming are really nice. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm more on the Origin side. I was just worried about you guys and if you guys are like folding into pressure and whatnot.
Yeah, I think a lot of this has been a function of, so for a typical game, like typical free-to-play game, usually they go through a green light process in a typical studio, and they'll soft launch usually for at least a year or two. And I've seen many games soft launch that don't even make it out of that. In our case, it's a bit different. We launched the game and we've been building in public basically, right? And so with that, we don't have that soft launch period, and we have had to make a lot of changes because it just wasn't good enough for you guys and for the community. So there have been some of these more significant changes early on, but totally understand that it's not an excuse. We want to lock it down. We want to get it to a place where we're just optimizing every season. And I think that's really what we're aiming for with some of these major changes coming in. And then from seasons moving forward, we definitely want to make smaller changes. And, we want to introduce new content for sure, as in, new parts or new types of exciting gameplay to keep the game fresh. But not necessarily, completely change some of the fundamentals as much. So that's definitely an important part of it. I think there's different types of, games. There's some games where there's a lot more, those mind games of, poker or bluffing. And then there's some games that are, have more strategic and finding the right balance between those. Not necessarily what V2 had is what we're trying to do with Origins. So yeah, it won't be V2. And we are, going down the path of what we want Origins to be. And then the final point around bugs is, yeah, we need to get better at that. I've been talking a lot with our engineering teams about how to beef that up more. And some of the systems just take time. So, for people who do software engineering, there's automation QA tests that need to be built. And a lot of that is being built over time, and we'll have more and more of those that help catch all these issues at scale. And then also we want to get out a public beta environment, which obviously will be super helpful with, getting things out there before it hits the live build, so that people can try things out, people can test things, and things are caught before they go live. So those are my thoughts on the questions.
Sounds good. I won't keep you guys up much longer. I just want to say appreciate all the hard work, and I'll keep in touch. Okay.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for the
Thanks.
answers. Appreciate y'all.
Okay, Z, you are up. You just got to unmute yourself and welcome. We cannot hear you if you're talking, just so you know. I don't know. Testing. Z, are you with us? Okie dokie. We're going to put you on hold and move on to, I'll probably butcher this, but Wilchin? I'm inviting Wilchin up. You're there. Come on down. All right, Wilchin, you're up on stage. What's up?
Hi, what's up? Very nice updates and very big changes. I'm sure it will shake up the metas and the excitement of the whole season. Nice job there. So I'm wondering, is there any updates on the Axie juggling TOS? Because now that the era is divided into 4 competitive eras, right? And 4 leaderboard rewards. As a competitive player and a guild owner, I'm wondering how you will, update about the Axie juggling, because I've been burned in the S1 from the IXS rewards because of Axie juggling with my scholars, and which I'm still arguing with the supports, right? And so, yeah, I would like to know how we can avoid the Axie juggling consequences and everything.
Yeah, I can definitely start with this. So we were talking a lot about this in the off season, and the general consensus is that we don't want to have to ban people or Axies. We want to have a system that it's self-working in a way that if you are doing the activity that you would be banned for, it's just going to punish you because it's not going to be effective. And so what I mean by this is imagine, and this is kind of the direction we're going. I don't want to give the exact specifics yet, but we'll share those very soon. You start moving Axies around, and all of a sudden your leaderboard position drops because you're either not playing the game or you're not able to hold your ground because the 3 Axies you use that got you to the top, you pass off to your friend. 5 days goes by, you're going to be rapid decayed, let's say. And so that's sort of a self-working system where we don't have to do any punishment because the progression down the leaderboard would happen so quickly that it would be in your best interest to just play with your best Axies all the time. So that's kind of the direction. So we're trying to build systems in the game where it's just sort of the optimal way to play the game is to just use your best Axies and not pass them around. And then we don't really have to ban people, and the whole thing kind of works itself out. So that's kind of why I want to start with this. I want to see if you guys, do you have anything to add, Phil or Emmanuel?
Not
Nothing
much.
from
Yeah,
mine.
that's definitely the direction. I think for season 2, I don't remember where we're landing on how we're going about it yet. But yeah, we'll have more details around that, before the season starts, to figure out, how we want to manage it for season 2. Because obviously with some of those systems we would need to build, and we'll have to see, how long it might take, how complex they are. So that is the direction. But yeah, still TBD on exactly how it'll work out for season 2.
Yeah, this is obviously, I know what an important thing is, and it's obviously very frustrating if it's not clear. We'll definitely make sure to get out at some point during the season or early in the season, very, very clear, like how this is changing from the community protection team side of things. And then obviously before then, we'll let you know how we're changing the decay system for example, to just sort of have this be a more organic solution. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it will all work out and we can play fairly and without any concerns about the consequences, even though if we are not doing anything that's breaking TOS. So just for an example, right? In season one, my scholars are using this team of axes throughout the whole season, and at the end of the season, 2 days left. So I transferred the axis into mine for a tournament esports server, and I somehow got banned and didn't get the access rewards. So that's just one of the examples that you guys should address, I think, because right now there's 4 eras and 4 leaderboard rewards. So yeah, I would like to play with with my mind off on things like that, so we can play fairly and with ease in my mind.
Yeah. You also just brought up a good thing to make sure it's clear about the 4 eras, is that the actual minting of the AXS doesn't happen until the end of the season still. So even as the eras end, you would still sort of like that Halloween bonus leaderboard, you would still sort of have a visual or an MAXS in your inventory, but we're still going to just do a one-time minting at the very end of the season. So glad you brought that up. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very
Z,
much.
are you with us yet? Or are you still, is Z here?
Yeah, hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. First off, yeah, I want to say amazing changes so far. I think a lot of this will solve like some of the accessibility concerns that I had last season, and specifically like a lot of pay to win stuff with runes and charms. But my question is actually on reward distribution. So you guys mentioned eras, and so I just wanted some clarity here on, is AXS rewards, will that be just, so basically will there essentially be a season for each era, or will it be like a
Yeah.
will there be like a finishing bracket for each era, and will AXS rewards be distributed between each era?
Sorry, the yes was to I understand your question. It's an absolute no that it's like a different season or something. How it works is that it just basically like snapshots the leaderboard, imagine. So it's like, oh, I'm in first place, the era ended, snapshot, and you just continue. So you're still in first. You just got to maintain that first. So it's still one giant season for all intents and purposes, but imagine there's just 4 snapshot payouts.
So the eras are really for kind of trying to balance the way that runes and charms are being crafted.
Well, the era, so there'll still be like a downtime, for example. So like when the first 7 days, which is the common and rare era, ends, like imagine the game goes into maintenance for a short period of time, and when that maintenance comes back on, not only will you be sort of you've achieved your AXS, so like you'll have AM AXS in your inventory because you were, let's say, number 10 or whatever. Cool, you got that number 10 AM AXS done. Now also you can start crafting epic runes and charms because that time gate recipe is open. And then you have all your moon shards, you have all your stuff, you start crafting. Now you play the next 14 days, and then the epic era ends. Game goes into maintenance, you get your whatever leaderboard you ended in, you get, and then turns on the mystic era, and now you can start crafting mystic runes and charms. So there's still a distinction of what's going on, but you don't have to worry about, like, it's not like a brand new season where you're like nothing's getting reset, you're not losing runes and charms, you're not starting back at egg or chick or whatever it is, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sorry. I think I probably worded that wrong. No, I understand. So basically, yeah, you're just kind of fractionalizing the season between the eras.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. That answers my question.
Yeah, you get all the AXS at the end into your wallet, but yeah, you earn them and actually get the right to get them in your wallet throughout the season, not just at the end.
Awesome. Yeah, sweet guys. Thanks for answering my question.
Thanks, Z.
Problem. Okay. The one and only Cairo is coming on up if he's here.
Hello.
Yo.
How you doing, everybody? I have a couple things. First thing I wanted to say was, from Wilchin's point earlier, I think honestly, if you objectively look at the way that the rules are set up for axie juggling, it's just like very vague and unclear. And honestly, I think that it's beneath us not to have like a very clear setup for that rule. I think that really does need to be discussed further. I know that the community's given a lot of ideas for it, and if like we need help figuring out a good system, I think we can come up with one. The other one was, let's see. Earlier we talked about, or I heard Phil talk about how the goal, well, even with Spam's question, the goal is to make sure that we're getting most of the base game mechanics in now, and then updating like smaller and smaller things as we go forward, even though we're going to be putting in new content and things like that. My question is with things like part upgrades or something as game changing as the secret class cards that we've been looking forward to for a really long time, how do those things not disrupt the game on a level similar to this season? Like, I just feel like there's almost no way in which we don't go through exactly what we're going through right now again with both of those changes because they're so significant. And then the last thing is, um, any plan for in-game tournaments anytime soon? I think that's something that casual players could really take part in. If you put up a random rule set, kind of like how we do things with the events with like certain stipulations, you put up a random rule set on those tournaments, whether it be a buy-in or a free entry. You put a very small AXS prize on them, whether it's daily or weekly. Like, I think that not being in the game, even in going into season 2, we're missing like a huge opportunity there, I feel like. And I was just wondering when the plan was for that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I could go first. Yeah, so with your concern about, hey, new secret class cards, upgrades, all the other things that we've talked about. So maybe, yeah, to clarify what I was talking about earlier, it was those. The season 2 is going to be the foundation for a lot of the changes for the existing classes, for the existing systems, for the existing things in the game. So people that are breeding for specific archetypes, for who enjoy specific ways to play their builds, that won't change drastically across the next few seasons or for the next foreseeable future. But yeah, when we introduce all of those other net new things that are things that current players don't currently have, yeah, they will shake up the meta. They will change things. We're currently working with a lot of designers and a lot of the community to figure out like what is the best way to go about it. Like if we introduce new secret class stuff or part upgrades or whatever, and those are the de facto only way to play the game, and they're objectively magnitudes way stronger than anything else that exists. We obviously don't want that to really define things too crazily. But yeah, we're still pretty early in the discussions for where we're going for those net new systems. But yeah, just to reiterate, we don't foresee lots of changes to the existing things, but when new things come in, those will change things implicitly, but hopefully it won't like rock the boat too crazy like. And then for your second part with tournaments, what were we thinking about tournaments? Obviously that banner has been there staring at all of us in the face for a pretty long time. We have a lot of designs, a lot of conversations that are going about it. I can't promise you any dates, but I can promise you that we are currently talking about tournaments, what that looks like. And so, yeah, all of the feedback of what's cool, like should there be different formats? What does buy-in look like? What the payouts look like? What is a good cadence? Like how sweaty should these tournaments be? All of that is super valuable as we think about what tournaments in Origins looks like. Anyways, so yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe.
One last thing before I go. With all that, and knowing that part upgrades are probably still a ways off, whether it be this year or however long it takes, do you guys like see the priority or do you guys see it as a priority to involve some sort of progression system in Origins? I know that you guys talked about adding the daily quest in, and that is nice because now a player has a reason to log in, whether or not it's just to go in and claim that reward. But I don't know. We've been talking about the casual experience in Axie, especially Origins, since it came out, and how there's just really like you don't really get to pick the team that you want. You have to be a meta slave throughout the entire game because the only thing to do is just grind for the leaderboard. I'm just wondering if like casual players are supposed to be looking for some kind of progression in Origins at some point soon, or should they be looking in different Axie experiences for that? Because I mean, like with land, I mean, I get a lot of that already, but I don't know. I feel like Origins is just missing a lot of that aspect. There's still not like the Ashen Pikachu or like somebody using a Mystic Axie and using that the whole season, placing high enough to where people will start to like remember that brand or something like that. I don't know. It just seems like there's not enough customizability in like the terms of team that you want to use. In Pokemon, I could go and pick like any Pokemon game I go and play, I can go and pick those Pokemon, the ones that I want. If I like Scyther the best out of any other Pokemon, I can pick that Pokemon and then level it up, and then it can be somewhat viable in whatever team comp I choose. I don't know. I don't know how that really works going into Origins, but I do know that there needs to be some sort of progression or something.
Yeah. So yeah, Phil, go for it. I know you're very passionate about this topic.
Yeah. So this is basically a lot of what I've been pushing for internally is for us to move towards a world where people have access to at least a base set of kind of decks and types, even if they aren't spending. So big, obstacle for us is as free players, if you're playing, any game out there, you aren't necessarily paying for all that base content. And so ideally we move to a world where a lot of the base content and archetypes are available. And then obviously if you really want to step up, then you got to start buying the NFTs and getting, the more meta relevant ones. But as a fully free to play player, you should be able to still do decently. And what that means is very gray. Like obviously there's a lot of nuance in what that means that we need to figure out. But yeah, you should be able to have a variety of decks to use. And so that will mean, more starter axes, more off-chain axes that people have access to in game that allows for new players to come in and experience all the different parts of the game. And then they can evolve to the on-chain, getting the, NFT axes that really can help them take them to the top. So that's definitely a big part of what we want to work towards over
Yeah,
time.
after living through the Puffy meta, I never thought that I would want to go back, but I do think that actually ended up being one of the most accessible times for everybody and had the community really involved.
Yep.
So yeah, I think,
Totally.
and after like experiencing some of the like Web2 crowd today in that Cloud9 tournament that we had, it's just clear to me that the game's very complicated off first glance, and like if your only thing is going in with the first three free to play axes and then just getting slammed, I don't know how we're ever going to onboard anybody for that. So, anyways, thanks for answering my
Yeah.
questions, and appreciate you guys hosting the stage.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm super, as Cruz mentioned, very passionate about this of the game. So yeah, we'll be working on it.
And actually, his last question was actually it came full circle, because the reason that we can't prioritize things like in-game tournament so quickly is because we only have so many resources, and those resources are pretty much going towards like progression and onboarding right now. So it kind of answers itself, as far as the priorities and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, it's definitely biggest focus is obviously get the core game to a solid place, and then it's onboarding, and then it's, all the, cool Web3 unique mechanics that we can add in that we haven't even delved into yet. Like there's so many interesting things we can do because we have Web3 as part of our game that, we got to just get the foundations in place before we can get a bit crazier with some of those features.
Yep. Okay, so that is it for questions, and that's also it for time. So closing statement. You guys want to do any closing thought each? Any
Oh,
last words?
sure. I didn't prep for this. Phil, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just, thank you to the community and everyone who's been playing and giving us feedback, and we hope you've enjoyed a lot of the changes, and see that a lot of this is from what you've told us, and we are obviously very grateful that we have such an engaged community, and that people that are also understanding of the challenges that we have as we develop this game. And I see that through these questions that a lot of you are empathetic to obviously the challenges of balancing and making the game accessible and fun for all the different types of people out there. So just thank you to the community. And as we've been talking through the game the past hour, it's it's come up a few times, but yeah, like everyone here is still so early. Like there's like scratching the surface on what we can do with this game, Homeland, all of our games, and we have a long way to go. But this is, I think, a very great start and a good place for us to keep working towards that, because like things that even Vince mentioned on Battle Pass, or new missions, daily quests, all those things, like basics, like we need to add in, and it's just going to be huge over time as those pile onto each other.
Yeah, I'll tack onto that. So my closing statement is I've worked in games for a long time, and I've never worked with a community as vocal and like intelligent, not to like pander, but like so many things that are built and why Axie is great is because of how smart and intelligent the community is, and how much of that has impacted how we think about things and how that goes into the game. So yeah, really, really cool. Excited to join the team. Thanks for everyone having me here, being the new guy.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
You've been awesome so far, dude. Last words for me. I'm really excited for season 2. It feels like it's in the longest off season ever. I'm definitely ready for it, whenever it is. And there's just tons to digest from this town hall. So please do, look at the visuals we sent, click the Google Sheet, take it all in, and then definitely like tweet at us your thoughts, questions, comments. If you were too shy to come up, don't feel free to use, or don't be afraid to use Twitter as a platform. I'll definitely be checking it, as will we. And I'm excited for the next contest, which will be starting when season 2 does. So be ready. And we will see you all for season 2. So stay tuned for those details. Thank you, everyone. And that's it. That's a wrap.